it forward and kindness. And oh, sorry, just give me 1 second here. And I had opened March 2025. So the Breakfast Clubs are the leadership event series of the Leadership Academy, which is brought to you by The Wheel, which is Ireland's Association for the Community, Voluntary, Charity and Social Enterprise sector. And the Academy is a place for leaders in our sector at any stage of their leadership journey to take the next steps on their leadership journeys. And the Breakfast Clubs are designed to help you take some time to have a think about the bigger issues and connect with other people in the sector. I am Sharon Hughes, the Leadership Academy manager, and this morning's event just wouldn't happen without my colleagues Ciara and Matthew. So if you have any issues, could you please contact them directly, because I won't see DMs when I'm chatting. So you can get started at our website, leadersacademy.ie, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn. And we have a new Instagram account as well. Matthew will throw the links for those into the chat. And a big part of these events is the chance to network. So halfway through, we will pop you into a breakout room for a chat and to reflect on what you've seen. So the room will have a nominated facilitator. There will be no Death by Zoom room on our watch. You'll know who your facilitator is because there'll be an asterisk on their name, so there's no need to panic. If you can't go into a breakout room, could you just use the chat function and let Matthew or Ciara know so that we can make sure that we don't assign someone to a group that isn't going to turn up. So, and please note the event is being recorded. If you want to take some pictures, we would love to have you tag us. So to the event. So it's well known in leadership parlance, the value of having mentors on your journey and supporters and allies, coaches, whatever you call them. We don't actually talk as much about the impact we have as leaders on the people who are coming behind us. So like, what's our role and responsibilities to people navigating the same challenging environments that we've had to navigate? So our two speakers at this event have both had very interesting paths to where they are today, and they both maintain like flat out and unwavering commitment to support and advocate for the people coming behind them. So they're both incredible leaders, incredible advocates, and I am dying for you to hear their stories. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to Damien Quinn. So Damien is the founder of Spéir an Nua, which is an award-winning social enterprise startup. Spéir an Nua has developed a new strengths-based model of disclosure to support people exiting a life of crime in their search for opportunities. Spéir an Nua has a national remit providing educational services to all the prisons in Ireland, and Damien also works with Galway Rural Development on the SICOP programme as their Community Youth and Ability Officer. And Dr. Jennifer O'Keke is the chairperson of the National Women's Council and the anti-trafficking coordinator with the Immigrant Council of Ireland. Jennifer is a sociologist and community activist who has lectured on race and ethnicity in both Maynooth and DCU. Jennifer is a board member of the European Network of Migrant Women based in Brussels and Age Action. Her area of expertise is on issues of gender-based violence, anti-trafficking, human rights and migration. So you could nearly just leave it there, couldn't you, with intros like that? But we won't. So I'm going to start with you, Damien. Could you introduce yourself to the audience, please, and let us know about your own background and how you got from there to here now?
Thank you, Sharon, and thanks everybody. You can hear me okay, can you? I had a few tech issues this morning, so sorry everyone. And great to be here with The Wheel and with my colleagues on the screen. My name's Damien Quinn. I'm from Tuam. I grew up in, well, I was born in a place called Abbeynockmoy, and I grew up then in the UK. And in my teens, then I moved back to Ireland after a family breakdown. That was a very, very challenging transition, you know, being English or being Irish in England first and then being English in Ireland afterwards in my teens. I found it very, very hard to fit in, and I tried to fit myself into the wrong places. I always had a bit of a work background. I had to work. I had to go out and work at the age of 14 because I had to step up for a household. And on that journey, like, you know, I suppose I would have fallen in with the wrong type of people and got attracted to drugs and that type of thing. And I built my entire teens, late teens, and most of my 20s around that lifestyle. And I eventually got caught. I got caught and I went to prison for a period of time. When I went to prison, then I used that time to get an education because I didn't want to live that life anymore. I knew there was a better life out there. I knew I was an awful lot better than all of that. And I got my grounding in education in prison. When I got out, then I struggled to get work and struggled to get into college, struggled to get a house, all that type of thing. And then I ended up right back to where I started. Garda vetting was pretty much the main issue. Like I would have been obviously struggling with that in different jobs and that type of thing. So I found my feet again anyways. I went back to education with Equal Ireland. Equal Ireland are a third level not-for-profit organisation that gives second chance education to people that missed out on earlier opportunities. And I started learning about community development, and I fell in love with that because I had a desire to give back and make amends and all them types of things. And on that journey, then I started looking at the area of Garda vetting, and I came up with an idea which I brought forward and have turned into a social enterprise today. So I'm here wearing a number of hats. I work in local development company, and I also have set up Spior Nua, which provides in the community educational programs that are interventive. And we do a lot of personal development, life skills, motivational speaking, all that type of thing in the prison system. So yeah, really, really glad to be here. And thanks, Sharon, for reaching out and getting me involved in this.
I just said I'm not finished with you yet, don't worry. So Jennifer, what about yourself? Would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and letting us know a bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much to Sharon for reaching out and to The Wheel. I was born and raised in Nigeria, in the west of Africa, and I came to Ireland many years ago. But for me, I think what stood out when I first came to Ireland is the lack of opportunity for certain categories of people, you know. So it means basically when you're in the international protection process or you're in the direct provision, there were certain opportunities that were not open to you, like not being able to work, not being able to go to third level education. And for me, as a single mom, having my young daughter at the time, you know, sitting in direct provision every morning, you sit there, you wake up, you eat, you go, you wait for lunch, you eat, you wait for dinner, you eat, you go to bed. It was just the same cycle every day. And for me, that was something that was really not acceptable. And that's by knowing the fact that policy, at least at the time, said you can't go to school. I was basically applying to every third level institution in Dublin. You know, my my roommate and my friends used to make a joke out of it at the time that, what are you still doing? I said, I'm applying to go to college anyway. And I didn't know what I was doing, but you know, I was just applying to all the institutions, third level institutions in Dublin. Name the institution, I sent my application there. But eventually one did respond to me, and that was the Inchicore College for Further Education. They did respond to me, and you know, and I was invited to come for English tests, which I went to. Again, I had a baby, an infant with me. So thinking about it at the time and looking at what will I do with this, nobody there to take care of the child, I just put my child in the buggy and went to Inchicore College with my child. And then when they asked me, so what are you here for? I said, I'm here for the English test. And you came with the child? I say, yes, I came with the child. There is nowhere to keep the child. But you know, they were very accommodating and they allowed me to come into the exam hall with the buggy. You know, the child was sitting there. I wrote the exam, passed the exam, was invited for a face interview, which I went for. And I met two ladies. One of them she's remained my friend till date. And that was Eileen O'Reilly. She was then the course director for travel and tourism in Inchicore College. But I think one of the things that I remember after they had asked me so many questions was when she asked me, why do you think we should give you the opportunity to come to Inchicore? And I wasn't sure immediately how to respond to that question. But then I remember also telling her that I am not Irish, but this child is Irish. And I can't give this child what I don't have. I want to have an education. I want to be better, because when I am better in this Irish society, I can raise this child to be better. And eventually I left. She said, okay, I'll hear from them. 2 weeks later, I got admission. I went back to Inchicore College. I was excited about the admission, but I also realized, okay, the fees is 3,000 euros. Where am I going to get that kind of money from? You know, where am I going to get that kind of money? I went back to Eileen O'Reilly again. And she was surprised to see me. Again, I went with my child. And then she asked me, I said, I saw the fees is 3,000 euro. I don't have that kind of money. And she looked at me and said, you don't have that kind of money. I said, no. And she asked me, how much do you have? I said, I had 400 euros. The school fees is 3,000 euros and I had 400 euros. But anyway, eventually we were able, Eileen was able to work something out that gave me the opportunity to come to Inchicore to study. And it was a lot of excitement. It was I found, for me, that was a really great opportunity, you know, and it was also an escape for me. That kind of not sitting in the direct provision center, morning, afternoon, night, having a focus, having a goal. So I wake up, I go to college. I was excited to go to college. I was excited to be part of Inchicore. You know, it was a very welcoming institution. Inchicore was a very welcoming place. So I went to Inchicore. You know, it wasn't easy going to Inchicore because one of the things again was at the time there was no way to type your assignments. I submitted all handwritten assignments. So that was yes, all handwritten assignments. All my assignments were handwritten. And Eileen, being the course director, spoke to all the other lecturers for them to accept my handwritten assignments because there was no computer for me in the direct provision to type out assignments. I didn't even know how to type, to be honest, even if I had the computer. But that was there. And
sorry, Jennifer, I just want to move you on a little bit, if that's okay. Do you want, so the Inchicore, you did tourism, wasn't it?
Yes, I did travel and tourism in Inchicore. I went from Inchicore eventually to go and do to Birmingham University to do tourism and business management. I came back to Ireland. I did my master's in Dublin City University in international relations, and eventually had the opportunity again to do my PhD also in Dublin City University. So it's been a journey. There's been a lot of challenges along the way, but I suppose I wouldn't change anything.
It started in Inchicore.
Yes, it did.
I'm going to, just while I have you, you both mentioned when we were chatting earlier about that you both could move on from your past now at this point, that you've come further on, that you have, but both of you are really committed to not doing that, to not leaving people behind. So Jennifer, from your point of view, what is the importance of advocating from the lived experience? Like, what is so important to you about advocating for the people that are still in a system that you have left?
I think for me, one of the things that stands out for me when I was in that system was the hopelessness, you know, and I was looking for something to hold on to. I was looking for hope. I was looking for light, if you know what I mean. And having walked that path and understanding, for me, Inchicore was the light at the time that I found. You know, it was my escape. It was my hope. It was my better tomorrow. So for me, having walked that path, one of the things that I do now is being able to find every opportunity to still talk to people that are in that process and letting them know, you know, tomorrow is going to be better. It doesn't matter what today is, tomorrow is going to be better. So I always find the opportunity, whenever I get the opportunity, to be able to give people that hope. It's amazing how much hopelessness is out there sometimes. And when you're in certain situations, you know, you are looking for anything to hold on to. You're looking for any sort of light. So for me, it's very important to be able to speak from that lived experience, to be able to tell them that, because it's one thing to tell people when you don't understand the path they've walked. It's one thing for you to be telling them, yo, this is going to happen and that is going to happen. But when you're coming from lived experience, it gives people the opportunity to understand that if it can happen to her, it can happen to me. If she can do it, that means it's doable. If that makes sense. Yeah.
It absolutely. Damien, the same kind of question, like what is it that drives you? Why do you stay in the space?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose I've been very, very fortunate, Sharon. Like, you know, I have carved out the career I wanted. You know, I can actually remove myself from that past. But like, I met people in prison that had bags of potential, you know, wanted to change, wanted to give back. And very often they couldn't give back. And I'd read about them years later in the paper being right back to where they started, or dead, like, and justice didn't really prevail there for anybody. You know, a lot of people in prison, they get caught up in this whole policy overreach. You know, they're considered to be a risk to children and vulnerable adults. Like, but if you went in there and said that to the general population of the prison system, that is how they are now viewed, they'd actually be quite horrified. Like, you know, because people, if we were to get a map of the deprivation indices and we were to get a map of offending behavior and overlay them, you will find very often that that's where most offending behavior happens. And that's down to just pure and utter struggle for survival, that people do things they shouldn't do. I see women going to prison for non-payment of TV licenses, you know, that's viewed as a crime. Like, you know, they're just being punished for being poor. So people in these situations need opportunities. You know, I can't move on fully knowing what I know about the people that I met. So that's why I do what I do. And we're getting great results. Like, we've some great employer support in our work. You know, people are moving on into college. There's loads. We've just launched a leadership program and all that type of thing. People doing really, really good work, bringing people along with them. And, you know, things are starting to change. But when we use terms like lived experiences and all that kind of stuff, I'm not really a huge fan of that. I'm a big fan of removing the labels. Labels are for jars, they're not for human beings. You know, that's my mantra. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's more that like as Jennifer said there, is that there's a level of hopelessness that I can never have experienced, having never been in that. Like, people are going to be certain experts about certain things, and they should be the ones maybe talking about it. But many of the systems didn't support you, right? Like, the systems, we know from talking to you, they let you down at certain points. But both of you mentioned a hoop of individuals. Aileen O'Reilly lives rent free in my head from talking to Jennifer. And I know, Damien, that you had mentioned a chap called John. So I'd love for you to tell the audience about like one or some of those individuals, because like I think people go about their daily business realizing they don't actually have the capacity for impact that we sometimes do have. So Damien, would you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
You're about John O'Grady. So John O'Grady
Yes.
was my first boss. We didn't communicate, we just worked and we got each other, like, and it was my first job after prison, like, and he just, yeah, he took a shine to me, and we never ever spoke about kind of my past. But when we did, he didn't care because I was just doing the work. Do you know what I mean? And I climbed the ranks in that job in masculine logistics. John O'Grady, good guy. After that, then I found Pat Callanan, who was an auctioneer in Athenry. He found out about my past online after hiring me, but was able to see past that because he said at the time, we all have things in our past that we're not very proud of and that we'd like to move on from. He said, you seem to know what you're doing, so let's give it a go. Like, and I worked with him for 4 years. While I was studying then with Equal Ireland, obviously, they're a massive influence on my life as well. I've been studying with them and I teach for them now part-time with the college and that type of stuff as well. Eddie and Nuala, they would have had a huge influence on my life as well. Ivan McPhillips, he was a lecturer and a big name in community development. But I found Siobhan Cafferty along the way as well. So a lot of people that know Pobal and know the social enterprise sector would know Siobhan Cafferty. Massive, she planted the seed about Spiritnua in my head. And most recently, when I launched Spiritnua the very same week, I got a job with Steve Dolan, who is the CEO of Galway Rural Development, and my manager then, Anne Cassidy, as well. So they've been a huge influence on my management styles and in my own organization too. So
John was the chap from Community Games, wasn't he, that you were telling me about?
no, that was Tony. So
Tony.
Tony Lee was so Tony Lee gave 50 years of his life over to the, well, almost 50 years of his life over to the community games. He actually walked out to jobs and put his volunteering first, which was a strange one. And we often had talks about, you know, he was too committed to that, where he should have been more committed to other things like home and all that kind of stuff. But I remember when I was approached to become, he was looking for somebody to be the county secretary for community games, and I was dying to get a go in community development. So I put my hand up and said, yeah, I'd love to do it. And he said, that's grand. So yeah, he said, we just need to do this and we need to go through the Garda vetting. And I said, look, I said, I'm going to have to stop you there. Something you should probably know. And I told him, like, I had a background for drugs and fighting and that type of thing, but it was from years ago, like, and he thought about it for a second and he sat back into his chair and then he leaned forward and he said, well, what have you done since that time? And like, nobody ever asked me that in an interview situation. You know, they always asked me about what happened, but he was more interested in what I had done since. And he put his neck on the line, like he was the vice president of Community Games Ireland, like, and he campaigned for 3 months to get me the position, and I got the position. And I actually have a picture I'll share later on. It popped up on my memories of myself and Tony, and I'll tag you in it. I'll tag you in what.
And didn't you tell me you're still on the board? You're still doing stuff for them?
Yeah, so we had our
Yeah.
AGM the last day, and I do, yeah, look, I will always do something for them. And my partner does say it to me all the time, like she says, anytime they need you, like they gave you the start. So obviously make yourself available. So I do. I'm not as available, but I'm available when they need me the most.
Yeah. No, I'm not judging. I'm just saying like that trade-off. And Jennifer, for you as well, because when I was chatting to you first ages ago, I was like, what's your drive? And you said, well, I have to hold the door open for as many people as held the door open for me. So like you were talking about those individuals as well. Could you talk a bit about that too?
Yeah, I suppose different individuals had their own had played their own role in my life at particular points in time. Like I mentioned, Eileen O'Reilly was one of the first women that stood out for me. But I suppose what was very interesting for me was when I did do my when I graduated with my doctorate, I went back to look for Eileen O'Reilly, and she was in the crowd that day, you know, cheering me on when I went to collect that the PhD. But aside from Eileen O'Reilly, there's been a lot of other women, you know. Even while I was in DCU, there's Dr. Mel Duffy. To be honest, without Mel Duffy, it would have been almost impossible for me to finish my PhD. The Dr. Nusha Yonkova, another great, amazing, and I mean amazing woman who brought me into the field where I work today, open her network, open her network up to me for me to be able to network with all these other amazing individuals. You know, there is Alva Smith, you know, so there are so many women. I can't even begin to name all of them, to be honest. Dr. Elbun Joseph, she's one of those women that, you know, aside from, you know, these women play different roles at different time in my life and for different purposes. Some of them as role models, some of them as mentors that I know that I can go back to this person. I can call this person to ask this. But at the end of the day, all of this individual that has had impact in my life, there's really nothing I can do for them. And that is why I ask myself, what can I do? And I realize that the only way I can honor everything that has been done to me, all of those women that had made themselves, and a few men that have made themselves available to me, is to ensure that the ones coming behind me, I'm able to, you know, support them as well, you know, hold the door open for them, and whatever, in whatever support they need, be available for them. And I try my best to do that. And sometimes we think it's only in certain roles, but it's in everyday life. You know, sometimes like yesterday, I ran into a young Black girl in the tram. I was coming to the city center and we got chatting. And I think she's on the Zoom call right now because she registered yesterday, but we got chatting. So it's not only when in your place of work, but it's in everyday life. Sometimes it's just someone you meet on the road, someone you meet in a particular place. They need to talk. They need to. Last November, Women's Aid, they had their event, and one of the ladies, you know, I met a girl that came up to me there. I had forgotten who she is, but you know, it was very satisfying when she reminded me, oh, 3 years ago I reached out to you. You gave me audience, you invited me to DCU, I came to meet you in DCU, we had a great talk, and that talk changed my life. You know, those are the that is the only way I can honor all of these amazing people that had made themselves available to me in the past. And that is what I try to do in everywhere I find myself, whether in my place of work, whether while I was lecturing in Minute University, my daughter asked me once, why do you allow students call you on Saturdays and Sundays? They shouldn't be calling you on Saturdays and Sundays, but that is who I am. Sometimes we are who we are. They are allowed to call me on Saturdays and Sundays because for me, it's more than just going into the classroom to lecture and leave. It's about ensuring that I support them to be the best for them, the best self that they can be. And that is what I try to do. And
I love that. I call
myself.
that karma coins, because I've had some really good mentors pull me out of really bad situations who don't need anything from me and never will. So I try to like gain the coins somewhere else so I can claim a few. I kind of think of it in my head as currency. But one of the other reflections that I love from talking to both of you is that one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how do I find a mentor? How do I find a good mentor? And I think there's this obsession with finding this one perfect, true love mentor, where in my experience, very much like you both reflected on, at certain points you needed certain things. Like at some point you needed kind of like educational support, at other points you needed a little bit of a, confidence boost, etc. So there's loads of people in this room that are either in leadership positions already in their current roles, or they're on a leadership journey, and at some point they will have, we don't like to use the word power, but they certainly have influence over other people's backgrounds. So when you reflect on those mentors and the people that helped you, what were the key things about them? What were the key skills that you feel like they access? Like if you were to talk to any of the people who are engaging with people who were in your situation, what would you say to them would be the best way to engage people? Jennifer, I'll start with you if that's okay.
I'm going to be very honest, because I think sometimes the best way to approach life is, honesty. Some of the mentors you will find, some will find you, and there is no one, just for me, my own experience, there is no one, it's this individual. You need different individuals for different things and at different stages in life, Like I found Ellen O'Reilly at the very beginning of my life in Ireland. I found Nusha Yonkova when I was going into Dr. Nusha Yonkova when I was going into the labor market. She started as my manager, and eventually she became my mentor, and we became friends and colleagues. And Dr. Mel Duffy, when I went into DCU, she started as my academic supervisor, and it evolved into mentorship and friend and all of that. So there is no one perfect mentor out there. It's looking for what do you need that this person, how can this person support you? And sometimes the people themselves might be asking you, how can they support you? And that is where I've been very blessed, because the majority of them will ask me, what kind of way, or how can I support you? And then sometimes I can be very specific that this is where I need the support, and sometimes I don't even know. And they walk me through things. So it varies from from situation to situation, from time space, from time to time. It just varies.
And what are the kind of, what do those people have in common? The people who engage with you. I think we talked about humanness, wasn't it?
They were women in leadership position, but they were also women with compassion, women that want to see other people succeed, women that understand that for you to be a success, there must be a successor, if you know what I mean. So they were, for me, when I keep using the word women, it's not as if there were no men influence in my life. But the majority of people that have heard those doors for me have been women. So they were women that understand that for there to be success, there must be a successor.
There must be a successor. I love that. I know you said as well about one of your managers, you were like, they made it easy for me to be a good staff member.
That's Dr. Nusha Yonkova. That started as my manager. She made it. I think it's very important for employers, whether it's HR or whether employers, it's very important for people to understand there are issues going on in people's lives. In my life at the time, there were so many challenges, so many challenges. I can't even begin to highlight it here, but one of the things that she was always doing is to call me and asked Jen, what is the situation at home? How can I be of help? Is there anything I can do? And she made it very easy. She made the working very flexible for me. It means sometimes if my child is in hospital, instead of me worrying about running into the office and rushing back to the hospital, it meant I can go to the hospital with my laptop and work from the hospital while I'm taking care of my child that is on admission. You know,
Yeah.
it's just about we compromise. She made it possible for me to remain in the labor market, because
When
otherwise
you said
I might have
when you said that to me, that was really like, I get to work in leadership all the time, and I was like, to have somebody say that about you must be like the best compliment you could get as a leader. But Damien, what about you? Like, what for your mentors or the people who turned up when you were ready, what did they have in common?
Well, I suppose like with my studies, you know, I was studying the sector for a very long time. I learned about some really, really successful social enterprises, that type of thing. I always reached out then to introduce myself and just say hi, and that's the type of guy I am. But I very much found a lot of my mentors and a lot of my opportunities by pure luck. Really is the bottom line. Like the job in Masterlink, I got through the back door. The job with Pat Cannon, I got through a friend. The job in GRD, I happened to be working on another project, and I got to know the CEO, and then I got to interview for a position. You know, but like it's very much every opportunity and every mentor that came into my life was very much by pure star alignment. Like, you know, even with the starting of the social enterprise, so with Spirinua. Just as I started it, the week I launched it, I got the job on the Social Enterprise Regeneration Project with Galway Rural Development, which is providing soft supports to social enterprise, existing and new. And so I was able to deliver training and get the training while I was starting my own social enterprise, which was absolutely fantastic, you know. But the qualities that the people that I met had was first and foremost empathy. Open-mindedness, you know, open-mindedness was huge. You know, like I'm a big believer of if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. You know, I like to surround myself with people that can, you know, I can learn from. I'm an avid learner and lifelong learner. And I just surround myself with people that I can learn from. And I've learned an awful lot from all of the people that I've named, and pretty much everybody that I meet as well along the way. So that's me. That's what I do. What they do.
Damien, I'm laughing at a comment that comes in that says, yeah, studied really hard and then got lucky. I will tell you that of all of the people I've ever invited onto the Breakfast Club, they are probably two of the most humble leaders I've ever met. You won't get either of them who'll own it in that way, even though I agree. Damien's also prolific on LinkedIn. He's as good as I am, so you should definitely follow him. The idea that he bumps into all these people accidentally. And you're both, one of the things, obviously, so I work on the skills team, we're really pro skills, and both of you, like, education is a huge part. That was one thing you both your journeys have in common. So could you talk to us a little bit about that like the importance of that continued upskilling and the value that has, like, beyond the actual learning? Damien, can I start with you?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose in England, as I alluded to earlier, like I really loved education. Education was my escape. I was a straight A student in England, but then when the family unit broke down, we moved back to Ireland, and I really struggled with the education system back here. Really struggled, and I was out of education, working by the age of 14. But then I found it again. I suppose I would have been working for about 8 years in like manufacturing, and in 2002 work dried up. I had no qualifications, and I had to go back and do my junior cert in a probation project at the age of 23. I did my junior cert there, obviously got caught. I did my leaving cert then in prison, and I did some open university stuff. And then when everything else after prison didn't work out and had a bit of a problem, I found education again with Equal Ireland. Equal Ireland's courses are absolutely fantastic. So anybody that's interested in putting somebody on a community development program, I highly recommend them, because I'm part of their alumni anyways. But education, like when I after prison, when I got the laptop and it opened a window to the world that I was never really exposed to. And you know, education is a huge part of my life. And I like to learn new things every day. It was a refuge for me. So I swapped all my bad stuff for learning. That's so I'm addicted to learning now. So yeah, education, and it happens in different ways as well. It doesn't all happen within four walls, you know. You learn an awful lot of stuff informally and formally, and it all has a value if it's applied in a positive way. And that's what I've been doing the last 13 years.
Yeah, and I love actually, if you just want to briefly tell the audience about, you mentioned about an exercise you did. So you did the Common Purpose Leadership Program, and you spoke about you two met on that actually before, didn't you? And
We did.
but you spoke about the exercise of leaving your assumptions at the door.
Yeah, so Common Purpose is an absolutely fantastic leadership program as well. I did the Emerging Leaders and the Senior Leaders program, but one of the events we had was suspending your assumptions, and we had a site visit into the Docus, and we got to meet with women in prison. And a lot of people walking in the gate was very rigid and kind of, you know, bit awkward and all that type of stuff. But when they got in there and they got to meet the women and meet the person and discuss the challenges that they lived, you know, you could actually feel the empathy in the room. And a lot of people came out of that prison wanting to help rather than wanting to punish. And it was one of my favorite exercises in Common Purpose. They teach cultural intelligence, but like I start from a place of cultural humility. You know, I'm not that intelligent that I know it all, but I have enough humility to learn, and that's a great program. So if anybody's looking for leadership as well, give Common Purpose and I'll tag there as well.
Excellent plug. We will throw Common Purpose into the chat. Jennifer, what about you? Like,
I second what Damien has said in relation to Common Purpose, because
Common
that's
Purpose for the win. You heard it here first, guys.
I suppose being born and raised in Nigeria, one of the things I learned at a very, very young age is the importance of education. You know, it's a culture where education is very important. So, and again, when I was in the direct provision, I wasn't sure which part my life was going to go. It was falling back to what I know, what I am comfortable with, if that makes sense. And for me, education has always been an escape. So I don't ask myself if education is important. I know it is important. I have seen the value of education, you know, because it's something that had been, impacted on me at a very young age, the importance and the value of education. But I think it's also important when you find people that also believe in you, because it's not, we all at various times, at various points in time, we're all at different space and at different points in our life. And sometimes it doesn't matter how intelligent you are or how smart you are. You might be at that particular point in time where you don't even know yourself anymore. So, and that is one of the importance sometimes of having this kind of diverse kind of people around you. Sorry, the noise, I'm in the mansion house, so just bear with the noise at the background. So, and that's the importance of having the diverse kind of people. So for me, it's also been people that have been able to remind me of who I am. Because at a point in time, I did lose myself. I did completely lost my identity, lost who I was, couldn't remember what I represent, who I am. And it's also having those kind of people that remind you of who you are and tell you all the time that you can do this, you were born to do this. So it's having all of those elements. So it's not just mentors as in mentoring you for the labor market or for certain skill. It's all of those kind of, whether they are mentors, they are allies, they are role models. We all need this kind of people in our lives.
Yeah, and upskilling is way more than what you learn in your class. Our next breakfast club actually will be on upskilling in Clonskeagh in the Islamic Cultural Centre. You can register for that as well. But I'm going to finish up because Jennifer has a hard finish at 10:45 because as she mentioned, she's in the Mansion House and she has to go and get some beautiful photos taken. But we talked about the impact we can have as individuals for people coming out of what you both experienced as very challenging situations. We also talked about what we as a sector, maybe like one thing as a sector we should maybe consider doing to support people. if you, would one of you like to go first?
Okay, I can go first if Damien
Yeah.
doesn't mind.
Yeah,
I
just
think
ladies first.
I think one of the things that is important as sectors is I think it's very important to sometimes sometimes it depends on the culture of organization. The culture, the kind of culture an organization build, that kind of inclusive culture or non-inclusive culture goes a long way. And for me, somebody like Dr. Nusha Yonkova was able to impact on my life because of the culture that she built around herself as a leader. So whether you find yourself in leadership position or you're the leader of a sector or an establishment, it's very important to try to understand the people that are working with you or working for you, and creating that environment where things are flexible, where people can work and be able to take care of all the other challenges that they have to deal with. Because it's not just the sum total of one's life is not just the work, but it's also a whole lot of things. But it's creating that enabling environment that allows people to remain in the job. That is one. Then the second thing is also giving people the opportunity and not expecting, because one of the things we do a lot is expecting people to work voluntarily, to work for nothing. People are already struggling, especially mostly people from marginalized communities. They are already struggling, and expecting them to come and work for nothing. You make their struggle, you double their struggle and the challenges they are facing. So it's ensuring that people are not working for free. Even if they are called volunteers, there's some kind of stipend given to support them. That is very, very important, and also creating an environment that allows people to be able to deal with the challenges in their life and still be able to maintain the job. That makes sense.
Thanks. Well said, Jennifer. Damien?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose the sector, I love the sector. Like, it was Ivan McPhillips that actually inspired me with community development. Like, when I heard about it, I didn't know what community development was until I started learning with Equal Ireland, but I suppose as a sector, what could we do better? I suppose collaboration would be much better to do. One of my biggest critiques of the whole funding applications and all this kind of stuff is that they're always competitive funding calls, so therefore it kind of makes us not collaborate. It kind of separates. So I would be a big believer and a champion of kind of consortium bids and all that kind of stuff and working together on that type of front. So look around your area, look what people are doing and see how you can align, and that'll make what you do stronger. It certainly has worked for us.
I love it. We're just right on time. We're 10:45. Wasn't that an amazing conversation? So Jennifer's going to nip off. The rest of us are going to break you into breakout rooms. And remember that there was some...
I'll join you in 10 minutes, but I just need to rush out for 10 minutes to do this.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
When we see you in the paper tomorrow, we'll be like, I knew her before she was famous. So what we'll do is we'll put you into breakout rooms. There'll be somebody there with an asterisk. So that person is your facilitator. So they'll make sure the conversation doesn't die. We'll leave you there for just over half an hour. And then if you have questions, pop them in the chat box. And I'm going to ask the speakers to come back and we'll just throw some of the audience questions at them for now, if that's okay. So thanks very much, Jennifer. You're free to go. Matthew, are you ready to do the breakout rooms? Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I feel as well.
So there was one question that actually came in before we left, and it's kind of outside of the conversation, but it was about it's easy enough to compromise when you see potential in somebody, that there's some a bit of flexibility, but there's a lot of takers, and about managing expectations. And I think that's something that we in the skills team hear a lot is, I often think of Richard Branson's, if you train them and they leave, well, what happens if you train them and they stay? And I think sometimes when you put systems in place to not be abused, if that's the intention, what ends up happening is nobody gets opportunities because you're so busy looking for that 2 to 3% people who are abusing something. I think that's what the question was, but I'm sorry. But I do have another question. How did you guys enjoy your rooms? Was there anything interesting that you wanted to reflect on after talking to people?
Just seeing a few familiar faces in the room. It was great to see a couple of people on the call. Grace there, and reconnect with Nick as well, and obviously all of the other speakers, and hear about the different things. We have blood bikes in our area as well, so we met somebody from Dublin. Yeah, look, great group. Yeah, thanks.
That's great. Jennifer, did you enjoy the room?
Yes, I did. I mean, I came in late, but I did. And I think one thing that I did just highlight very briefly is the importance of how you deal with fear. Because that was one of the things I said yesterday I was going to talk about, because fear is very important, but and then I ended up forgetting to talk about fear. You know, at various points, we always have that fear, but it's important to how we negotiate fear. Fear can either become a stumbling block, or fear can become the step that you need, the ladder you need to climb. So it's always one of the things I learned very at a very early stage coming into Ireland is to do it despite the fear. In fact, when there is no fear, I worry, is this thing worth my while? You know, or what? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is me, Jennifer. If I don't feel those butterflies in my stomach, I always ask myself, is this thing worth my while? So it's about how we negotiate fear and how we see what we see fear as. Fear, for me, I let fear speak to me. I don't let fear own me, because fear means I'm asking the conference I'm going on next week, Monday, I'll be in New York for the CSW. I'm one of the Irish delegates going to New York next week. The last time I went there to represent Ireland and as a speaker, I saw over, it was a very massive room. I asked myself, am I prepared enough? So for me, I let fear speak to me. I don't let it own me. So it's always important when that fear comes, how do you walk around the fear? Because you always do that.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I think a lot of people think that you're going to hit a point where you're just ready. And in my experience, it never happens. Like, unless it's still hard, you probably shouldn't be doing it anymore. And same with jobs. Like, if it's too easy, you need to leave and move on to a different one. There was just a question about, you both mentioned about making it like slightly easier for candidates or for people in the role. Just somebody asked, is there any kind of really practical, is there like one or two things people could be doing on the ground to help support people who come from different backgrounds into the sector?
Well, start with suspending your assumptions, meet people where they're at, take them on face value, see them as the people they are today, and look at the skills they bring. That would be a great starting point in my book.
And in a practical sense, what's that, a cup of tea?
Well, like if somebody's applying in for a job or something like that, like at the end of the day, they're applying because they believe they can do the job. So hear them out properly, like, and make a fair and balanced, judgment. And cup of tea, take the whole awkwardness out of the whole interview process. Put them at ease, look at the skills they bring rather than things they can't change. You know what I mean? That's something I always try and ask people.
Yeah, I think about creating those spaces as well, because that would be sometimes people are ringing this, I'm having this difficulty or this challenge or this, what should I do? Should I get this process? Should I kick off? And I will actually say, have you gone for lunch? Chips, like, have a chat. What's going on in your life? What's going on in their life? Where's the difference? Before you start getting into, I think the whole HR landscape of things has made people think everything has to be a system and a process, but there's that human piece of just connecting with somebody else and seeing how they are as humans.
Sharon, can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
The suspending assumptions is very important. But the Dr. Nusha Yunkova that I spoke about, my manager that became my mentor. One of the things she said to me because no other person in the organization knew what I was going through at the time, but I was going through homelessness, being a single parent, child in hospital, so many things going on at the same time, trying to work my PhD as well and keep the job. But one of the things she did was call me, invite me for a coffee and ask me, I was coming in at the time when I need to come in and go out at the time when I need to go out. But maybe she saw something, and because I didn't say anything to her initially, she called me, invited me for coffee, and I was wondering, have I done something wrong? Or have I not done the job properly? Only when she was asking me, is everything all right at home? She went straight for, is everything all right at home? Is there something I need to know as your manager? Is there a way I can make the job easier for you? I know you're a single parent. is there any other thing I can do to support you to do the job? And that was when, because she asked. The only reason why I told her about all the things that was going on at the time was because she asked. If she hadn't asked, for me as a staff, I would not be, I'll feel it's not my place to go and burden other people with my issues. But because she asked, I was able to tell her. And that was how she created that environment for me. Okay, you don't need to be in the office all the time. Since the child is in hospital, stay there, go with your laptop, you can work from there. Just beat the deadline. We know what the deadline is. Just ensure that you work within the deadline. So I didn't need to be in the office like from Monday to Thursday. I could stay with my child in the hospital and go with my laptop and work from the hospital and do what needs to be done, if that makes sense. So there are certain things, but if she had never asked, I would not go and start telling her about all my problems because it's not her problem, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
So there is something about, but it's the kind of culture you create in that kind of environment that allows for that. Certain kind of environment, they don't want that kind, they want it in a very clinical manner. And it is problematic, that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think that leads into what Damien says as well. It's just making the space, like wanting to know what's going on, but not expecting it to magically just appear, that you as a leader have to create that environment, whether it's tea or a plate of chips, to actually say to somebody, right, what's going on? Okay, we're coming up on time. The hour and a half just absolutely flies. It has been the most fascinating conversation. Thank you both so much. I love you both anyway, but to actually be able to showcase how amazing you both are as leaders has just been phenomenal. So thank you from me and from the Academy and from my colleagues at the wheel as well. Your story has been amazing, and I'm sure you'll hear from lots of people on LinkedIn as well. And our next event will be in person on the 10th of April in the Islamic Cultural Centre in Clonskee. So if you'd like to come and see the building, you should register. It's up online now. So thank you again so much, and we wish you both the very best in your journey going forward.
Thank you very much, Sharon. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon, David.
Likewise, Jenny. Safe travels.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.